Good morning. Today's lesson is on surface area of spheres. So we know that a sphere is just basically a ball. It has a center, and all of the radii coming from the center touching the surface of the sphere are equidistant. So I want to just kind of review some formulas with you. If I were to draw a circumference on this circle, or the sphere, circumference is all the way around. So I'm going to call that C. I remember that the formula for circumference is pi times diameter, or C equals 2 times pi times the radius. The volume of a sphere we worked with yesterday, 4/3 pi r cubed. I have to fix that. So now we're going to talk about how to find surface area. So surface area, let's talk about what surface area is. When I think about volume and surface area, I think of Christmas. Volume is, or like wrapping a present. Volume is the amount of stuff that you can fit inside of the box. Surface area is the amount of wrapping paper that it takes to cover the box. So when I talk about surface area, I talk about the sum of the areas of the faces. So that really helps when I'm talking about maybe a prism. I could also think of it as the sum of the areas of the outside surface. The surface area of a sphere is 4 times pi r squared. Well, that's funny because pi r squared is the area of a circle. So you mean to tell me that the surface area of a sphere is 4 times that of the circle inside of it? Well, this right here, which is the circumference of the sphere, is also the circumference of a circle. I notice that this measurement right here is my radius. My radius is 9. So if I know the radius, I can figure out the surface area. Surface area equals 4 times pi times my radius, which is 9 squared. That's the same thing as saying 4 pi times 81, which is the same thing as 324 pi centimeters squared. That would be exact. This is exact. If you were asked to round to the nearest tenth, I would take 324 times pi, and you get 1017.87. So 1017.87 is about 1017.9 centimeters squared. On the second example, I noticed that this measurement going across is the diameter. So the diameter is 14. If the diameter is 14, that means the radius is half of that, which is 7. So you can plug that in and check that out. So the next thing that I want to talk about, though, is a hemisphere. So we talked about a hemisphere yesterday when we were talking about the volume. We said that the volume of a hemisphere is half of that of a sphere, and the volume or the surface area of a hemisphere would make sense to be half of that of a sphere. So I want you to think about this for a second. Surface area is the amount of surface that it covers, right? So this curved piece is half of a sphere. So half of 4 is 2 pi r squared. But we also have this flat piece right here, this base, which is a circle, plus pi r squared. So this is kind of tricky. So the surface area of a hemisphere is actually 3 pi r squared. So we're going to find the surface area of the following. So the radius here is 6. Remember, that the surface area of a hemi is 3 pi r squared. So that's 3 times pi times 6 squared. 6 squared is 36. 3 times 36, which is 108. So this is really 108 pi centimeters squared. Now that's exact. If I wanted to the nearest tenth, I would multiply by pi, and I would get about 339.3 centimeters squared. Let's look at this next one over here. This one has a diameter. So the diameter is 13. That means that the radius is 6.5. Remember that the surface area is 3 pi r squared. So I have 3 pi times my radius, 6.5 squared. 6.5 squared happens to be 42.25. So I have 3 pi times 42.25. So that equals 1026.75 pi inches squared. If I were to give you an about answer, I would take that 126 and multiply it 0.75 times pi, and you get 398.19, and 398.19 is about 398.2. All right, so here I'm talking about the surface area of the sphere. So the surface area of this sphere is 324 pi centimeters squared. I have to find the diameter. So I'm looking for the diameter, and in order to find the diameter, I have to work backwards and find the radius first. So remember that the formula for surface area is 4 pi r squared. So 4 pi r squared equals 324 pi. So I'm trying to find my radius. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by 4 pi. Divide both sides by 4 pi. When I do that, the 4 pi's cancel out on this side, and I'm left with r squared. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do the other. 324 divided by 4 is 81. So the pi's cancel out, and 324 divided by 4 turns into 81. I'm trying to get r all by itself, and right now it's r squared. The only way to simplify that is to take the square root of it. Whatever I do on one side, I must do on the other. So the radius is 9 centimeters. Well, if the radius is 9 centimeters, that means that the diameter is 18 centimeters. All right, here's another one. The volume of a sphere is 288 pi centimeters cubed. I have to find the surface area of a hemi. Same measurements. Okay. So volume, 4/3 pi r cubed equals 288 pi. So do we divide fractions? I guess is my first question. Not necessarily. Typically we multiply by the reciprocal, but really I'm just going to divide both sides by 4/3 pi. Divide by 4/3 pi, because I need to find the radius. So here these cancel out, and I have r cubed equals 288 divided by 4/3 equals 216. Now, this is r cubed, and I need to take the cubed root of it to get it by itself, meaning I need to find out what number multiplied by itself equals 216, and I'm pretty certain that it is 8. That's not true. Maybe it's 6. Yeah, there we go. So r equals 6. Now I'm asked to find the surface area, which is 3 pi r squared. So 3 pi times 6 squared, which equals 3 times 36, or 108 pi centimeters squared. All right, so let's talk about what we did. We were given the volume. The first thing I had to do was find the radius. I had to solve for the radius right here. Find the radius. And then use that to find the surface area of the hemisphere. All right, let's do this last example. Find the volume of the figure. Well, I have a hemisphere and I have a cylinder, and it's a volume question. So the volume of a hemisphere, 2/3 pi r cubed, plus the volume of the cylinder, pi r squared h. So I have 2/3 pi times the radius, which is 8 cubed, plus pi times the radius, 8 squared, times the height, 18. So 8 cubed is 512 times 2/3. So this is 512 times 2/3. I'm going to keep it as a fraction. Equals 1024 pi over 3 plus 8 squared is 64. 64 times 18 equals 2,952 pi. So now I'm going to give you an about answer. 1024 divided by 3 plus 2,952, all of that times pi, equals 10,346.3 millimeters cubed. So you may see something like this on a quiz. All right. So homework today, 8 questions. If you have any questions, don't understand what you're doing, make sure you get on the Zoom channel. Thanks.